Ever wonder how the familial bonds between Europe's ruling houses crumbled under the weight of World War I? This was not just any war. It was a conflict steeped in a complex web of political, economic, and familial ties. Central to this narrative are three royal cousins: Britain's King George V, Germany's Kaiser Wilhelm II, and Russia's Tsar Nicholas II. Bound by blood, these monarchs ruled the most powerful nations of the time. So how did these royal cousins end up on opposing sides of a devastating war? Our story begins with the family tree, where branches intertwine across nations. King George V of Britain, Kaiser Wilhelm II of Germany, and Tsar Nicholas II of Russia were not just rulers of great powers, they were also cousins. Their shared lineage and upbringing, a fascinating blend of cultural exchange and royal protocol, forged bonds of kinship. Yet, beneath the familial ties, national interests were simmering. They say blood is thicker than water, but was it thick enough to withstand the pressures of growing political tensions? As the 20th century dawned, so did mounting hostilities among Europe's great powers. The three royal cousins found themselves caught in a web of political and diplomatic tensions, their familial bonds strained by the weight of their respective crowns. For King George, Kaiser Wilhelm, and Tsar Nicholas, the personal became political, their family ties twisted into diplomatic tightropes. In the heart of Europe, an arms race was escalating, with nations stockpiling weapons and flexing their military muscles. Colonial competition added another layer of contention. As countries jostled for control over foreign lands and resources, diplomatic rivalries simmered beneath the surface, with alliances shifting like sand beneath their feet. These were not just abstract political maneuvers, they were personal affronts, slights that stung all the more because they came from family. These mounting tensions were the sparks that ignited the powder keg of Europe. In 1914, the unthinkable happened. War broke out. The fuse was lit by the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria-Hungary in June of that year. This tragic event was merely the spark that ignited a powder keg of tensions that had been building for years. The complex web of alliances and treaties that crisscrossed Europe suddenly came into play, drawing nation after nation into the maelstrom. Despite their familial ties, the royal cousins found themselves bound by their duties to their respective nations. Britain's King George V, Germany's Kaiser Wilhelm II, and Russia's Tsar Nicholas II were swept up in the storm. The intricate dance of diplomacy and power politics had failed, and the stage was set for one of the most catastrophic conflicts in human history. Suddenly, cousins found themselves on opposing sides of a deadly conflict. Imagine the heartbreaking reality of fighting against your own flesh and blood. The once close-knit cousins, King George, Kaiser Wilhelm, and Tsar Nicholas, found themselves leading their nations into a deadly conflict. The trenches of Europe became a battlefield where the British, German, and Russian forces clashed against each other. Take, for instance, the Battle of the Somme, a gruesome confrontation that lasted over 4 months in 1916. British forces under King George's rule faced off against their German counterparts, led by their cousin, Kaiser Wilhelm. Or consider the Eastern Front, where Russian forces under Tsar Nicholas squared off against their German relatives. The bonds of family were forgotten amidst the roar of artillery and the chill of the trenches. The once shared childhood memories and family bonds were overshadowed by the grim realities of war. This was a war that tore families and nations apart. When the guns fell silent, the world was forever changed. The Great War left an indelible mark on the tapestry of history, its ripples still felt to this day. The conflict claimed the lives of over 17 million people, a number so staggering it's almost incomprehensible. Entire generations were lost on the battlefields of Europe, and the world mourned. But the devastation extended beyond the human toll. Political upheavals swept across the continent, toppling empires that had stood for centuries. Russia succumbed to revolution, its monarchy dissolved in the face of a new radical order. Germany, too, faced monumental change, the seeds of another devastating conflict sown in the wake of the Treaty of Versailles. The three royal houses, Britain, Germany, and Russia, were forever altered. The war that pitted cousin against cousin reshaped the very fabric of their dynasties and the world they ruled. The echoes of this war still reverberate in our world today, a stark reminder of the cost of conflict.